With a tenure of 6 years and 64 days, of which he held the concurrent charge of NSA for 5 years and 85 days, Brajesh Mishra of the 51 batch of the Foreign Service has undoubtedly been one of the most influential and powerful principal secretaries to the Prime Minister. None before or after him has combined these two powerful positions together. There were many other firsts to his credit. For example, he actually joined the Bharatiya Janata Party and began to head their foreign affairs cell. In fact, that is the time when most of the political parties started having their foreign affairs cell. His father, incidentally, was a Congress stalwart, none other than D.P. Mishra, who was a very powerful chief minister of Madhya Pradesh. And Mr. Vajpayee also comes from Madhya Pradesh. And so when Mr. Vajpayee was sworn in as the Prime Minister on 19th of March, 1998, Brajesh Mishra became his PS on the same day. That is, he became the PS to the Prime Minister's office on the same day. And he moved ahead full steam insofar as the nuclear program is concerned, because that is what the BJP manifesto had also said. But it's important to observe that he ensured that the veil of secrecy was perfect so that no one even got a hint of what is happening. The best report on the Pokhran blast comes from India Today report of May 11th, 1998, and it says, Mishra first made it so on May 11, 1998, by being the only man in the government to address the media after the Pokhran blast. According to the PMO, he did it on Vajpayee's instructions. But it did set the tone of an uninterrupted innings which divided the government, strained Vajpayee's relationships with his party, with the RSS, and created an image problem for the government. This was in the immediate aftermath of the Pokhran, but we have to look beyond Pokhran. See, Brajesh Mishra was very clear that India needed to strengthen its relationships with the USA, while at the same time mending fences with Pakistan and China. Therefore, he was not a typical foreign office person. He could think out of the box. And he felt that the foreign policy of India should be based on India's pragmatic self-interest rather than on any ideological disposition. He was rightly called the first foreign policy czar of the country, and his was the last word on diplomatic and security-related issues. Thanks to his foresight, India was able to reverse a commitment made by our Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. L.K. Advani, and our Foreign Minister, Jaswant Singh, who just said that, all right, we will put our troops into that infamous US invasion of Iraq. And it was because of him that India did not send its troops to Iraq, even when India had some very good equation with the US. And as I mentioned earlier, he was the supreme pragmatist of his times. Ambassador Satish Chandra, who wrote a tribute for him in a paper for the Vivekananda International Foundation, said, and I quote, he could easily accommodate the imperative for a better relationship with the US with the requirements of a modus vivendi with China. He adds, quote, India under Vajpayee was able to make much progress in revamping our relationship with the US and China, and that too after our nuclear tests were distasteful to both. This is, in fact, a testimony to Mishra's diplomatic skills, unquote. Mishra then goes on to say that the three areas in which Brajesh Mishra left an indelible impact were India's nuclear policy, India's security system, and its foreign policy. Now, the important point to note is that unlike the BJP, which changed its position as far as the nuclear program is concerned, when the UPA came to power, Brajesh Mishra did not. He was the one who supported Manmohan Singh when Manmohan Singh wanted to have that Indo-US nuclear deal. This is very important because it shows that if you are a real strategic thinker, you have to think beyond party lines. We are aware that Mr. Vajpayee's term came to an end in 2004, and then we had 10 years of the rule of Mr. Manmohan Singh, the UPA, and as somebody would also say, the control by Sonia Gandhi. And we get a good insight into this from two very interesting books. One is by Sanjay Baru, which is called The Accidental Prime Minister, and the second is A.S. Dullat, A Life in the Shadows. Because of the coalitional nature of government, much of the power that was there lay not with Mr. Manmohan Singh, but with Sonia Gandhi. And therefore, the PMO had lost much of its sheen. And although Mr. T.K. Nair from Punjab cadre has had the longest tenure in the PMO, he was there for 7 years and 128 days. He did not exercise the kind of clout which was there with Mr. Jha or Mr. Haksar or Mr. Alexander or A.N. Burma or Brajesh Mishra. When Pulok Chatterjee took over from T.K. Nair, the position of the principal secretary became stronger. But as is very clear, Pulok Chatterjee was reporting to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi primarily, and of course his nominal boss was Manmohan Singh. And that is why a wag had commented, the accidental prime minister has an incidental PMO. And making a comparison between the PMOs under Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh, Dullat says that while Vajpayee's PMO was very happy, Manmohan Singh's PMO was very tense, stressed out. And there seemed to be a lot of wrestling that was going on. Because by this time, the Cabinet Secretariat, the NSC, and the NSA, and the Planning Commission were also emerging as strong contenders in the policy space. Cut to 2014. Mr. Narendra Modi now becomes the Prime Minister and takes over Raisina Hill. Now, phonetically speaking, this is the return of the Mishra era, because no other surname has had this kind of a run. Because after Brajesh Mishra, it was Nripendra Mishra, followed by P.K. Mishra. Now, Nripendra Mishra was the first principal secretary to Mr. Modi's PMO. He currently heads the Ram Janmabhoomi Trust, as well as the Prime Minister's Memorial Library, which was earlier called the Nehru Memorial and Library. He's been an exceptional bureaucrat and exercised great influence and the remarkable thing is that he's worked with two CMs of UP as well earlier, Mr. Mulayam Singh and Mr. Kalyan Singh. And both these CMs are also ideologically at odds with each other. But it just shows that he was a professional whose skills were respected by his political mentors. He was succeeded by our current principal secretary, Mr. P.K. Mishra from the Gujarat cadre. I've had the privilege of seeing Mr. P.K. Mishra in action. First, when I was Agriculture Secretary in West Bengal, and he was the Agricultural Secretary to the Government of India. Then, of course, as the Director of the Academy, I've seen him in action in two of the Arambh programs which we conduct for the newly minted officers from all services, who are recruited to the UPSC. And I've seen him at the Statue of Unity, at the programs that we've organized there. Very efficient, very effective. Done a great name for himself as the head of the Disaster Management Authority. Had done some phenomenal work during the earthquake in Gujarat. But having said all this, let me add that if he had not been the principal secretary to the Prime Minister, if he had not been engaged in post-retirement in such position, he would have been one of the finest agricultural economists. His PhD on insurance is from the University of Sussex, and he's written many columns, many a book on the subject. And therefore, I must also mention that the current edition of the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which is the crop insurance scheme that is currently being run as a flagship program of this government, is a direct outcome of his PhD research at Sussex. So we have a great person in the PMO, but we've also lost a great agricultural economist in the process.